How are you doing, man? How does it feel to be back in the game, back in the ring, Punk?
Oh, it feels great. It really does. I think I missed it without realizing I missed it. Just actually, throwing on some boots and some knee pads and stuff and getting in front of a live audience. There was a point, I think, where I had done everything I could possibly do, and there was really kind of no avenue for me to enjoy something I used to really, really love. And then AEW came around and kind of the spark grew from there. The idea, the possibility that I could come back and kind of re-engage with my love of pro wrestling again. And that's exactly where I'm at right now, so it feels great.
Well, I interviewed Cody and Brandy Rhodes together, and Cody came just a couple weeks ago. And Cody came on a couple years ago, just when AEW was in its infancy. And, when I was talking to the Rhodeses the other day, because I'm an NFL Network guy now, 18 years, but when we were just age 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, we were dreaming of being good enough and legitimate enough for those in the NFL to want to join us. And then folks like Dion joined us, and then Brian Gumbel called games for us. And I think they view your arrival with them as legitimizing their infancy now being part and parcel of the wrestling world. How do you feel about that?
I try to keep my feet on the ground when I hear stuff like that, but I understand that, and I think there's some truth to it. I just don't want it to blow my ego out the door. Because I do take that as a quasi responsibility. To me, it's great. It's great that I'm here. It's great that Bryan Danielson's here in AEW. But to me, we gotta start the work. And I don't want to rest on my laurels and just be like, oh, I'm here now. Everything's great. I want to do fun stuff, but I also want to help grow the company.
So what did they sell you on that you bought? What did you say? Okay, let's do it. Why?
It originally was nothing that Tony Khan was offering me. I'm at the point where it's not about the money. Otherwise, I would have been back. I was gone for 7 years. I would have been back at some point, to cash grab in those 7 years. The biggest thing was a friend of mine who had left WWE and was signed with AEW, and he just started there during the pandemic. And he unfortunately got a pretty serious illness, and he passed away day after Christmas last year, or this year actually. And they did a tribute show for him, and the entire show was dedicated to him. It was very emotional. Pro wrestling's a pretty tight knit community. You could not see somebody for 20 years, and then you run into them somewhere, and it's just like you saw him yesterday. And I just saw the entire company come together to celebrate Brody Lee and his family and his two little sons. And that just really resonated with me because I had never seen anything like that in pro wrestling before. Normally it's like, 10-bell salute, here's a T-shirt. Yep, we really love this guy. And it's just kind of on to the next. And they just really poured their heart and soul into dedicating a show. And, they're starting a foundation now for him. And that was the big thing that made me go, all that stuff about pro wrestling being a family backstage, it looks like it's actually true in this place. And then, I start watching more shows and I see more young talent, and I begin to see things that I could be doing within the parameters of an AEW wrestling ring. And I guess I just got the bug again.
And then when you returned and you're standing in a ring and you're in the United Center and the Chicago kid, CM Punk, gets in that ring and you started talking to the fans, it looked like it got very dusty in there, and I don't mean Rhodes. It looked like it got really dusty in there with you, CM Punk. Did I see something?
I think my eyes were leaking before I even appeared on camera. Yeah, it was a really emotional day.
It was. And, so now that you are back, and what has your, I guess, first blush experience been now that you're after 7 years? What is it exactly that you think you missed and that you're glad that you're no longer missing it?
Well, it's definitely the selfish stuff, like the roar of the crowd, the adrenaline rush you get, feeding off the people, performing in front of crazy, rabid, sold-out crowds like 20,000 people at Arthur Ashe Stadium, or, just walking out onto the ramp in front of 15,000 people at the United Center. Those things I haven't done in so long, so it's almost like they're new again. Engaging in pro wrestling with guys who maybe grew up watching me is kind of a trip, but it's exciting too, because there's just this whole new generation of young, hungry wrestlers that I guess look up to me as a kind of a role model. And, so like I feel like I'm in this very Reggie Dunlop slapshot position of player coach, old gnarly guy who has got a couple tricks up his sleeve and, wants the team to succeed and win, but, along the way, help some guys out.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.